Welcome to Breaking Through the Contradictions. Here, our goal is to review some of the common contradictions we have lived and have had many conversations about, and how it impacts various areas of a child's growth. So, welcome back to Breaking the Contradictions. Hello, Christine. How are you today?
Good. How are you, Tabitha? Nice to see you.
Man, okay. It's been a long day, but I think it's still good. I think that there's a lot of great things happening, so I feel good about today. And hopefully you feel the good too.
Yes, I feel good too, Tabitha. Yes, I'm looking forward to talking today too about our topic.
That is pretty cool. So I'm so excited because I just want to make sure that everybody who's listening understands why we're here and what we're here to do. And so I'm just going to say that our goal here is to review some common contradictions we have lived with, we have lived and have had conversations about that impacts various areas of a child's growth, because that's really important to me as a child advocate and as a parent and as a business owner. So I am excited to get started. As soon as I can stop dropping things over here, that'd be great.
Don't worry.
What
I'm
happens.
fiddling with the light as we're talking. I'm like, oh, wait, that doesn't look so good. So I'm fiddling with it. There it goes. I'm
There we
like,
go.
weird shadows going on.
It's all right. That's what live is like, right?
Yes.
All right, cool. So our contradiction today is, you want to share with us what the contradiction is today?
Our contradiction today we're talking about is testing and how we educate our students. And we're talking about being open-minded and being problem solvers. And those two things are definitely opposed to one another.
I love this. Okay, so I'm ready. Okay, let me start. I'll start here. So here's my thing about testing.
Wait, before we begin, we have to do that disclaimer.
Oh, so I'm going to put the disclaimer up as well, because definitely there's something that's going to be there. I do want to make sure I protect you the best way I know how.
Thank you.
So here's our disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed by the guests, speakers, and participants in this context are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the organizers, hosts, or any affiliated individuals or organizations. My apologies. We encourage open dialogue and diverse perspectives, but the individual viewpoints shared during this discussion are personal and should not be attributed to any collective entity involved. So there, at the end of the day, our opinions are our own and they're not affiliated with anything else, and they should not be held against anyone else. Okay. Ready? So go. Testing. Standardized testing. So here's my take on this. Testing is necessary. The right testing is necessary, right? So if you were getting a job and it meant that you were going to be driving and a long distance and you wanted to protect your cargo and things like that, a drug test is good. If you want to make sure that they understand the road signs and understand the traffic laws and things like that, we take a driving test. Absolutely. Okay. Standardized testing. When I was younger, I thought they were a little weird for me. I didn't like it. As I got older, I really started not to like them. But then when I became a parent, I 100% felt like they were out of place. 100% out of place. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that I'm okay with a standardized test. Do you know your ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, and then how to combine the two? I'm okay, 100%. What I'm not okay to is that test being the only measurement or only marker or the only thing that child gets to learn while in school. Because when I was growing up, it was critical thinking. They taught us all the components that went into the test and then gave us the test. And every once in a while we would get a golden egg, which is which is that one problem that shows up on the test that they reviewed with us. And then we're like, I know this. I got this, right? But when I was sitting there watching my kids go through it, I can literally say that the standardized tests, it departed from what it actually was set up to do. And that for me is why I don't think that standardized testing is appropriate, because it doesn't teach, it doesn't help them solidify or validate the critical thinking that they have learned. And then the standardized test doesn't actually, it doesn't actually teach you or confirm the aptitude of the student. Well, now you're a teacher.
Yes. So I'm going to go right back to your very first part that you were talking about, which is testing for aptitudes. So I was thinking about, like when you go into voc rehab, they have testing, where do you think you would fit in best? And so something like that would be a tool to help determine the best fit for that person. So I think in that instance, the testing is important when it's utilized in that fashion. So I'm just going to tell you from a teacher standpoint, we have testing to do and standardized testing. Plus, we have our regular curriculum. So our regular curriculum goes over higher level critical thinking skills. So as a teacher, you're trying to balance between making sure that your children achieve on the standardized test, because we're evaluated, at least in my school district. I can't speak for everybody. They do take a look at it and they see how we're performing. And then we also are getting observed, and our criteria for our teacher observations are a lot on higher level critical thinking skills, how we're problem solving. Are we having our children participate in the classroom environment? So it gets tricky in that part to make sure that they're excelling in both of those areas. And our time is short with our students compared to what we have to get done in our school day.
All right. So I kind of don't, the one thing that I think for me that has always been bothersome is the fact that your group is actually, it's in your performance reviews, right? And that by itself is a problem, because so not only is the student being not, oh, that's not right. What the heck happened there? All kinds of things. We're trying to stay on target. These bad boys, these things just happening all of a sudden. Okay, let's not do that. Let's not do that. What's happening?
Stay on track.
Stay on track. That's what I'm trying to do.
You're just trying to keep our guests and everybody else knowing how long they have to stay on.
You only have this long.
Yep.
So my thing is that your performance review are the things that you should be looking for. You should be measured, right? But the measurement should be more fair is a bad word. I don't like using that word when it comes to like the adults, right? But in all actuality, it's not fair. It's not okay to measure up against something because like that. Or how do I need to say this? Because I don't think this is coming out properly.
So can I go ahead and help out?
Yes, please.
Okay. So you're right. So our observations and my formal evaluation is also weighted with the standardized testing. So I don't necessarily have not taught the students that have gone through the standardized testing. So if you go to a new school, let's just say, then you still are evaluated by how that school performs. So that would be what you're saying, what I'm hearing you say is that part would not be fair So another part of our assessment is we have to do whole class learning objectives or student learning objectives. And then we'd collect data on that. Now we're evaluated on how we do on that. So it's either highly effective, or not effective, depending on how effective we were and making sure that we taught the students that skill. So in order for it to be measured, it would be skill-based.
But see, my thing with the performance review, I believe that everybody needs a performance review. The only way to get better is to review what our past experiences are in order to understand how we're going to move forward in a better way. 100% get that. My challenge is with the performance reviews, as I don't know, I've never been through one with schools, but I have gone through them in my experience, as an engineer, right? My problem is that when you have 25 students, and we're going to say best case scenario, 23 of them make the grade and they're doing great, right? Then so best case scenario, okay, your performance is showing how well you're doing, right? Because you're looking at the number of students who actually pass through the eye of that needle in the way that you want with that desired outcome. But what happens when it's 15 that only make it? And then you still have 10 that cannot cut the grade, who cannot do that. And it's not because they're not smart. It's not because they don't understand the information. It's because it's one way to teach, one way to digest, one way to understand it. And that's it. And that's where my problem is with that. So so that's the testing part of it.
So you're talking about the standardized testing of it or the teacher part of it? Which one?
So it's all for me, it looks kind of all the same. So it comes from different perspectives, but it's still the same. So when you look at the teacher, so I feel so bad sometimes for a lot of the teachers, right? Because they have to teach to the test. So you have to teach to the test so the student understands the test enough so that when the standardized test appears, that they can then be successful in passing it, right?
So there's another part of this from a teacher point of view. So sometimes we have children in our classroom that come to us that are ready to learn. And sometimes we don't. And we're not, we don't pick our students that we have. So you could have a higher percentage of students in your classroom that have not been read to, that have not been given the background knowledge, that are homeless, that are hungry, and that are not able to focus or learn, or there's, emotional things that are going on. So that's another thing that the standardized testing does not show. So as a parent, you're looking at this and going, gosh, this teacher, look at this. She doesn't know how to teach. And this teacher is going, gosh, you know what? I have tried small group. I have tried one-on-one with these children. I have tried to remediate whole group. I'm looking at the test scores. I'm having troubles. They're going to their administration. They're going to teachers that are like across the hallway. They're meeting in collaborative groups, and still those students are behind, even with trying as hard as they can to help them. So that is another part that people don't always see, that are not in the classroom setting. So and then when we look at those tests,
yes,
okay, we all know sometimes there's test anxiety.
Yep.
Sometimes children come in tired. Oh, you know what? B is looking real good. B. Oh no, you gotta be kidding me. You're not even paying attention. Or I've gone around before. Oh, let me check to see if your headset's working. No, their headset isn't even working. So they can't even hear anything that's coming out of their headset. And there's a lot of variables that are not taken into consideration. I had a student one time say, I don't really like that letter. And he knew the letter. I really don't like that letter. I like this letter better. I'm going to go ahead and choose that letter because it begins with something that he really liked.
Chocolate cake.
Yeah, maybe chocolate cake. So you have like off the wall kinds of things. And as a teacher, I'm going, no, because I know that my administration is going to be looking at that and going, what are you doing? What are you doing, Christine? And then not only that, I can explain it to, my administration, but then you take a look at it from like a whole, even higher than that. They don't understand that you've had influxes of children. We have coming and going, revolving doors. There's a lot of factors that go into that.
And then you just validated what I was saying, because at the end of the day, there are other factors that are not considered. So when you look at a test, you're only taking just in that moment. We'll just take 1 hour to take that test. And then inside that test, how well you do is how well, that's what we're going to mark you with that. We're going to mark you with, you are a D student because you were not able to successfully pass the standardized test, right? Or any test. So there are two things I wanted them to say. One, I suffer from test anxiety. Very, very, very bad test anxiety. I've been dealing with it my entire life. Nobody picked up on it until I hit college. Nobody understood it, and they didn't even bother to try. It wasn't until somebody identified, they were like, you're going to blow your whole entire program if you cannot take these tests, because I was failing these tests every time they put it in front of me. But what I found it was because of the amount of pressure. And actually, I never considered myself a high achiever. And now I'm kind of starting to reevaluate some of that because of don't be looking at me like that, Christine. But, I didn't know that I was striving for that perfection, or I was striving to get it all. But then that pressure came, and then test anxiety kicked in, and then I couldn't take a test to save my life. So if on paper, if you only looked at me on paper, you would say that I was not a good student and I'm not smart. But when you got to talk to me and you actually spoke, when the one teacher talked to me, he was like, hey, we're going to go ahead and talk your test. And when he did that, he was like, is an A, what the heck? And then that's when we started shifting how he was able to test me on my skill set. Because there are other ways to test the skill set. Again, the aptitude is missing in the standardized test. There are some beautiful, great test takers, but they're not smart. They're just great test takers. And those are the people that that's how those performance reviews are like, you are doing such a great job because you have great test takers. You don't have people who know how to apply the information that has been provided to them. That for me is a problem. At the same time, the second point being, I know people, very, very close people to me, who actually used to take those Scantron tests and bubble in pictures. They would, by the time it was over, they had a picture of something, a bird, a building, whatever. They were using the Scantron to build out these pictures. They never could take the test because they didn't understand it. It has everything to do with how they were being taught. No critical thinking, no independent thinking. You can only think this way. You can only do it this way. So then where does that leave us, right? So that's why I feel like your performance, yes, is 100% tied to the success of your students. But the success of your students is 100% tied to what they understand. So what is it you say? So, what you want them to understand, what you want them to learn, and what you want them to do, right?
Yes.
Standardized testing will never get us there, because those pop quizzes, they get us closer to understanding what our responsibility is as far as learning. But if the intent is to get those students to understand first, that means you cannot teach one way and one way only. If the second one is for them to learn, you have to be willing to tap into how they specifically learn, because neither one of us learn the same way. You and I don't learn the same way, 100%. And what are they going to do with that information? So If I taught you how to rob a bank, are you going to be able to rob a bank right away? No, right? But if you watch and study for a period of time and learn the nuances and the ins and outs, you're going to get better at trying to rob that bank. Now, I would not suggest nor encourage any of that foolishness.
What are we trying to do here? Trying to teach people how to rob a bank?
Rob a bank, the bank of education, y'all. But that's the point. So when we're looking at different things, there's some people that are physical learners. They learn through touching and feeling and things like that. Then there's those other ones that are all book, and you can learn from the book. Believe it or not, I can read a book, learn it, and then apply it. Very interesting skill set I've learned. I have no clue how that happened, but I can do that. But not everybody's going to be able to do that. And so I don't look down on somebody else for not being able to do what I can do. I just know that I have a skill set that they don't have. And I think that we need to kind of teach them how they can learn, you know?
Going forward, I'm thinking like long-term implications of testing and long-term implications of critical thinking skills. So what do you think, like when we have these students enter into the job market, what do you think is going to be the most beneficial approach for them to be able to get a job and then to maintain a job, and not only to maintain a job, but to be a valuable member that can contribute and to be able to think and relate to others? What are your thoughts on that?
The testing doesn't get us there. It just doesn't. So for a lot of the positions that I've had to do, I had to test. I had to test to go in. Some jobs I didn't get because the test excluded me. And it wasn't that I didn't know the information. It had everything to do with the amount of anxiety that I actually had once I seen the test. For me, I really wished somebody would have noticed that early enough to give me skills to be able to successfully do that. But to your question, going out into the world, the test is not teaching. Test is not teaching them how to critically think on their own, how to independently think on their own. It's only teaching them to take the test and be successful. That does not teach. So if somebody is a really great test taker, but they have no life skills, they don't have any personable skills, customer face is horrible, you're not going to find that in the standardized test. So if we're only putting together employees who are assembly workers or line workers or operators who only need to press a button or put these two pieces together, absolutely, standardized tests will help you understand whether or not that person will be able to follow instructions every step of the way. But if you want them to say problem solve, to troubleshoot something that they've never seen before or is in their wheelhouse and they can potentially get through it, standardized testing is never going to test for that. It doesn't show, I don't think. And at the end of the day, no, it doesn't work. It just doesn't. You can't see it because oh my gosh, this guy, I remember I interviewed him, and I remember that I interviewed him and I was having a conversation with him, and the management team was like, just hire someone. And I was like, no, this is not okay. We don't want to do it. I like him. Just hire him. He could pass the test. 100%. But guess what he did once he got in the building? He set my stuff on fire. So here's the thing. I knew it. I felt it all in my body that this was not a good person to hire. But he came with like a master's degree. He came with all these different other companies that he came from, and they were all really well-known companies. But for whatever
critical think, is that what you're saying? That he could just regurgitate what he knew on the test, and he got good grades and that kind of thing, and it looked really good on the resume.
But when he went to apply it, there was flames coming out of stuff. I was like, dude, what are you doing?
I want to ask you like another question too. Standardized testing. Do you think that they have biases?
Yes, 100%. 100%. There are biases in the test that exclude certain groups of people. I don't know why we do it. I don't even understand why it's even applicable. At the end of the day, we know it to be true. There's studies that actually show that it's happening, and then you can actually see the differences. And then I've been having conversations with a few people here lately, and we do know that there is a difference. Sitting in a classroom, we learn the same lesson, but we receive it differently. And how we're receiving it and the messaging that we're getting is actually feeding and validating some of the behaviors that we'll have later on in our lives. So I do believe there are biases. I don't understand why they need to be there. And I think it's time for our friends and families to actually step in and say, we don't want to do this anymore. Do you think there are biases?
So
I'm just asking.
As an educator, I'm going to ask you a question. So why do you think that it's time for us to step in and make a change? Because you're not a teacher, you're not you're not in the education field, but why do you feel strongly that needs to change?
You can actually tell in education what's happening. So I turn to my kids every once in a while. I'm like, I need to write somebody to get my money back for your education, because it did not prepare. It did not prepare them for later. It didn't. Honestly, it turned out to be that they were doing the work to get the grade, but there is no place for it. And then there was nothing, they were attached to it. They weren't attached to it. So when I was going to school and I went through my magnet program and I was learning all the tech and the technology and how to build those circuit boards and things like that, I was attached to that. I was happy to do that. I was like, oh, this is cool. I can look what I can do. But those kids they're just like, I'm just here to get through the day so I cannot have to deal with this anymore.
So what you're basically saying is ownership.
Mm-hmm.
So you took ownership of it because it was valuable to you, and the teachers made it applicable to what your interests are in.
Yes.
So with your children, then they didn't have a feeling of ownership or a buy-in over what they were learning. So they were basically doing the assignment, turning it in, and that's it, and not figuring out how this will benefit them in the future.
Correct. And then two, I mean, it doesn't to this day, it still doesn't help them. And the critical thinking actually came from home. It didn't come from school, because what I was doing at home. And so, yeah, I'm not in the education field. However, we are all educators, every single one of us. And so as a parent, we're educating, and schools are not babysitters. Schools are where they do the part that we can't do at home. So I'm not going to be able to teach you world history, science, math, English, all of the things that they put in here. I'm not going to be able to do that do that from my perspective, from my home. But I can teach you all the other stuff that works, right? I can teach you all the other things that are going on, but I can't teach you that part. So these are partnerships that need to happen. And it's time for us to make a change, because look, at the end of the day, all of them are coming out to work for us. If we don't get this under control, and I want somebody who can say, I've seen a problem, I'm highlighting this problem to you, and these are 3 solutions to solving it. Until we get to that place, we're still going to be in some trouble. So as we wrap up here for this session, this contradiction, I'm going to ask you, how does this impact the child when it comes to, for me, it's going to be child safety, and for you, it's going to be, I guess, education, right?
Education, and making sure that we are able to prepare our students for the jobs of the future, because those jobs are coming at us very quickly. So we need to make sure that we're doing our jobs.
Yes. So from my standpoint, the standardized test or testing and period, unless it incorporates things that are going to be supportive of that child learning how to independently stand on their own, it's going to continue to be a problem. And that's the part that impacts child safety. Critical thinking and independent thinking is very, very important for any person and any child. They need to be able to say, yes, this is where I belong, or no, this is not where I belong, and these are the reasons why. They need to be able to independently say, based on the information that I have been provided, that these are the steps that I need to take in order to achieve the desired outcome that I need, which is my personal safety. I need to go home. I need to be home by this period of time. In order to do that, when a white truck or a white van pulls up next to me, I need to start screaming. I need to say, hey, this is not my person. And why are they trying to get me? But you can't do that if you never teach a child how to independently think on their own and use a skill set, which is critical for them to be successful in their lives. Now, the difference between getting in a car with a stranger or getting in a car with somebody you know, that is an independent thought, and it's a critical decision that they have to be made. That is how not being able to teach children independent and critical thinking and only teaching them to the test, how that impacts safety as a whole. Because sometimes, for certain situations, they can open a door to somebody who can really harm them. And it'll all be because we never taught them how to think through that. We only say stranger danger, right? Stranger danger. And don't get in a car. Don't do that. If it's a stranger, right? But then we don't.
Nice test, isn't it?
Yes, right. It's all back to that.
You pick which one is it?
Right? Which one?
Get into the car, stranger danger, or what do you say? It's that. But it's the part that you said before is a higher level critical thinking skills that we want all of our students to possess. So,
So again,
it's always a pleasure talking with you. So I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yes, this is awesome. This is great. So thank you very much again. So thanks for hanging out with us for a short period of time. I think that was always really good and important. So we appreciate your support and look forward to you visiting us again on Breaking the Contradictions. Same time, same place. Until then, words are power. Please remember to use them wisely.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you for your time today. We appreciate the support and look forward to you visiting us again next week. Same time, same place. Until then, words are power. Please remember to use them wisely.